In 1974, farmers digging a simple well near Xi'an, China, uncovered something impossible beneath the dry earth. At first, they thought it was broken pottery. Then a face emerged from the soil. A life-sized soldier made of clay stared upward from the darkness after more than 2,000 years underground. Soon, archaeologists arrived at the site, and what they discovered shocked the world. Beneath the farmland stood an entire underground army. Thousands of soldiers, archers, generals, war horses, war chariots, all buried in perfect military formation beside the tomb of one man, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. The Terracotta Army became one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in human history. More than 8,000 soldiers were hidden underground for over 2,200 years, and every single warrior looked different. Some had thin faces, others looked older and battle-hardened. Different hairstyles, armor designs, facial expressions, and ranks appeared across the army. No two soldiers were exactly alike. Standing inside the excavation pits today feels almost disturbing. The warriors do not look like statues. They look like a frozen army waiting silently in the dark. But the deeper historians studied the site, the more terrifying the story became. Because this army was built by a ruler obsessed with one thing above all else: death. Qin Shi Huang was born in 259 BCE, during one of the bloodiest periods in Chinese history. At the time, China was divided into rival kingdoms, constantly at war. Entire cities burned, millions died in endless conflict. At just 13 years old, Qin Shi Huang became king of the state of Qin after the death of his father. Most rulers his age would have been controlled by advisors. But Qin Shi Huang was different: cold, patient, ruthless. Over the next several decades, his armies crushed every rival kingdom standing against him. Using massive military campaigns and brutal tactics, Qin conquered all of China by 221 BCE. For the first time in history, the country became united under a single emperor. Qin Shi Huang declared himself the first emperor of China. His achievements transformed the ancient world. He standardized Chinese writing so people across different regions could communicate under one system. He unified currency and measurements across the empire. He built massive roads connecting distant territories, and he ordered the early construction of what would later become the Great Wall of China. But his rule came at a terrible cost. Ancient records describe severe punishments, forced labor, and widespread fear across the empire. Scholars who criticized the emperor were reportedly executed. Books were burned to erase ideas that threatened his authority. Hundreds of thousands of workers were forced into enormous construction projects. And as Qin Shi Huang grew older, one fear slowly consumed him more than rebellion or war: the fear of dying. The emperor became obsessed with immortality. He sent expeditions across the seas, searching for magical islands said to contain the secret of eternal life. Ancient alchemists created mysterious potions for him using mercury and other toxic substances believed to grant immortality. Ironically, historians now believe those dangerous mixtures may have slowly poisoned the emperor instead. But Qin Shi Huang refused to accept death. If he could not live forever above ground, then he would rule forever below it. So construction began on one of the largest tomb complexes ever created in human history. According to ancient records, more than 700,000 workers helped build the emperor's mausoleum over nearly 40 years. The project became an underground empire. At the center stood the emperor's burial chamber. Surrounding it stretched massive underground halls, hidden tunnels, ceremonial structures, and the Terracotta Army itself. The warriors were carefully arranged to defend the emperor in the afterlife, exactly as real soldiers would defend him in life. Archers stood ready at the front. Infantry waited behind them. Generals commanded from strategic positions. Even the horses were sculpted with extraordinary realism. Originally, the entire army was painted in bright colors, deep reds, blues, greens, purples. But when archaeologists exposed the soldiers to oxygen after excavation, much of the paint cracked and peeled away within minutes. The colors vanished almost instantly after seeing daylight again for the first time in over 2 millennia, as if the underground world resisted being disturbed. But the Terracotta Army was only one small part of the emperor's underground kingdom. Ancient historian Sima Qian described incredible details hidden inside the central tomb. According to his writings, the burial chamber contained rivers of liquid mercury designed to recreate the rivers and seas of China. The ceiling supposedly displayed stars and constellations to imitate the heavens above. Crossbows and mechanical traps were allegedly hidden throughout the chamber to kill anyone attempting to enter. For centuries, many people dismissed these stories as exaggeration. But modern science revealed something shocking. Soil tests around the emperor's tomb show unusually high levels of mercury even today, suggesting the ancient accounts may actually be true. And that raises a terrifying possibility. The emperor's tomb may still remain almost completely intact beneath the earth. Even after decades of excavation, archaeologists still refuse to open the central burial chamber, partly out of respect for the site, but mostly because modern technology may not yet be capable of preserving whatever waits inside. The moment fresh air enters the tomb, ancient paintings, fabrics, and artifacts could begin deteriorating immediately. Scientists fear losing priceless history forever. So the tomb remains sealed, silent beneath the hills near Xi'an, waiting. No one knows exactly what lies inside. The untouched body of Qin Shi Huang, lost treasures, ancient writings never seen before, or deadly traps still hidden after more than 2,000 years. For now, nobody can answer those questions. Today, millions of visitors travel to China to stand before the Terracotta Army. Rows of silent warriors stretch endlessly through massive excavation pits beneath giant museum hangars. Their expressions remain cold and emotionless, watching, guarding, waiting for orders that will never come. Empires collapsed, dynasties vanished, but somehow, Qin Shi Huang achieved exactly what he wanted. More than 2,200 years after his death, the world still remembers his name, still fears his ambition, and still wonders what waits inside the tomb no one dares to open. But the deeper archaeologists explored the burial complex, the stranger everything became. The Terracotta Army was not simply a collection of statues. It was designed as a real military formation. The soldiers were arranged according to ancient Chinese battle tactics. Archers guarded the outer flanks. Infantry stood in long defensive lines. War chariots waited behind the front ranks. Even the positioning of generals reflected actual command structures used during the Qin dynasty. Every detail served a purpose. The weapons discovered beside the warriors shocked historians as well. Many bronze swords remained incredibly sharp, despite being buried underground for more than 2,000 years. Some researchers believe ancient craftsmen used advanced chromium coating techniques to help preserve the metal. If true, this technology appeared centuries before similar methods became common elsewhere in the world. The deeper scientists studied the army, the more advanced the Qin Empire appeared. And yet, the emperor ruled through fear as much as innovation. Qin Shi Huang believed absolute control was necessary to prevent China from falling back into chaos. He built networks of spies throughout the empire. Strict laws punished even small crimes severely. Entire families could be executed for acts of disloyalty. Fear became one of the foundations of his rule. But despite his enormous power, Qin Shi Huang could not control the one thing every human being eventually faces: